So Stephen Hawking, yeah, he passed away yesterday, and it's tragic. Obviously, the funny thing is, it's not funny, but I've had some conversations around, and I've seen in some of the tributes people saying things like, I can't believe he's gone. I just can't believe he's gone because he's been around for a really long time. He's been a noteworthy person my entire life, as far as I can remember back anyway, and. And so I understand that sentiment, that not being able to believe that he's gone. But at the same time, I'm, I'm like, wasn't he given like 2 years to live when he was diagnosed back in the '60s or something like that? Like, there's no reason the guy should have lived as long as he did. It's an absolute miracle, either of God or science, however you want to look at it. But it's an absolute miracle that the guy lived as long as he did, and it was able to contribute to the world what he was able to in that time that he was here. So while other people are saying, I can't believe he's gone, I'm more of the mind of we're just incredibly lucky that he lived as long as he did and was able to forward our thinking as much as he was able to. I did some research a while back. I wrote a screenplay that was based around somebody who got ALS, and just through that research, I found out that there's, I think, like 2% of people with ALS survive past maybe 5 years or so. Most people, it shuts down systematically different parts of your body until it gets to your heart and your lungs. And I don't know that it actually gets to the heart necessarily, but it gets definitely to your lungs to where you can't breathe anymore and you got to get on a respirator. And once you're on a respirator, all it takes is for someone to trip over the plug or something like that, and you die. I mean, that's what happened with Christopher Reeve. His thing just popped out while he was sleeping one night. The respirator thing just came off, and there you go. But no, there's like 2% of people with ALS that it doesn't get to the lungs, so you can actually kind of live indefinitely, or at least a regular lifespan. You're just stuck in a wheelchair, and you could say imprisoned in your own body, which is awful. But you don't need to even say how remarkable Stephen Hawking is, not just because of what he was able to do to sort of transcend our current thinking on physics and stuff, but just the fact that he was able to do it in the condition that he was in, to be able to just kind of get through life in that condition is sheer bravery and gumption. But to be able to continue advancing the world while doing that is also remarkable. Another little tidbit about Hawking that I always thought was kind of interesting was, he has that computer voice that I won't emulate, but we've all heard it. We know the computer voice that he has. Well, of course, that was created for him back in, the 80s or something like that? I mean, it's very old, this computer voice that he used. And even though the interaction that he had with the computer and the power of the computers over the years has changed and evolved, he kept that same computer voice. And I actually heard that there was a company that found some old recordings of him before he lost his voice and was going to recreate that through the computer, so that when he talked through the computer, it would sound exactly like in his voice. And he chose not to do that because his reasoning, as I read it anyway, was that wasn't his voice anymore. People now know him as the computer voice. And so he stuck with it. He stuck with this kind of old, outdated computer voice for a very long time, just because that was his voice now. And that was sort of his trademark. So he kept it. And that actually makes me think a little bit of, I'm going on a little bit of a tangent here. I had read somewhere, and I don't know if this is true, that Arnold Schwarzenegger, after 10 or so years of living in the United States, he started to lose his accent, his very distinctive accent. And and that he actually went to a voice coach to get it back, because that's what he was known for. Like, if he tried to act as Arnold Schwarzenegger with an American accent or some derivative of his old accent, it would be weird to people. So he started losing his accent. He actually went to a voice coach to learn how to get it back. And then over time, he had to force himself to keep this accent. I don't know how true that is. I had read that somewhere. I find that interesting. But it's along the same lines as that whole Hawking thing that I was just talking about. But he also died on March 14th, which some people thought was interesting because that's called Pi Day, because 3.14. And uh, I guess in some circles it's considered sort of a celebration of science kind of day, or a celebration of math because of that distinction. And so they found it very relevant or ironic that he died on that day. And other people also pointed out that he died on Einstein's birthday, which is also an interesting little coincidence. A further coincidence for me is that March 14th, yesterday, was my birthday. And he died on my birthday. So I'd always known that Einstein's birthday, I shared a birthday with Einstein, which was always really interesting. That's partly why I've got Einstein up on my little picture over here. Also just to represent science and intelligence and smarts, knowledge. But no, I was born on Einstein's birthday, and I always thought that was kind of cool. There's jokes to be made there. If you want to be positive, you could say, hey, that's a day for geniuses to be born. If you want to be funny, you can say, well, Einstein sucked all the smarts out of that day. So that's usually the way I go, because I'm like that. But now Stephen Hawking died on my birthday. That totally sucks. I'm not going to lie. That really is not cool. Yeah, I don't know. But actually, so I didn't think he actually did die on my birthday, because it was the night before, like just before I went to bed, is when I found out that he had passed away, and I shared it on Twitter and stuff. But where I was, it was still the 13th. But I'm guessing he was still living in he was in England when he died, and so it was already, the change had already come over. So it was early in the morning of the 14th over there. So officially it was on the 14th, but where I was, it was on the 13th. But it's going to go down in the history books as being on my birthday. And with any luck, maybe someday people will look at March 14th and be like, that's the day Joe Scott was born, and Albert Einstein. And can you believe that Stephen Hawking died on that day? That's such a weird day. Anyway, it's weird for me. It probably will not at someday be weird for the rest of the world, but yeah. I used to have a joke that said that I won't consider myself a success unless they, rearrange the calendars around my birthday, like Jesus or something. That's how you know you've made it. When the whole world, changes their calendar, because that's when you died. Small expectations out of life. Anyway, Stephen Hawking, absolute legend. He will be missed. I will say, I had heard from a very well-placed source, and I will not reveal this person's name, because chances are, if you're watching this channel, you know who it is. But I had heard that he'd actually been in decline quite a bit lately, cognitively, maybe even having a bit of dementia. I'd heard that. I don't know how true that is. That was just what I had heard. But and I'd also, this is what disturbs me a little bit, and I hope that there's nothing to this, was that actually about a week ago I read an article that was saying that he was being denied medical care by his caregivers. Like, they were not taking him to the hospital when they should have. And the person who shared it was a friend of mine on Facebook, was talking about Mickey Rooney, the actor. Apparently in his final days, months, whatever, he was in really bad health, and his caregiver was not taking him to the hospital, was not giving him the care that he needed. So he kind of died of elder neglect. Now, I don't want to start anything. I don't know that that's what happened with Hawking. I certainly hope not. But I had seen an article that was shared that said that there were concerns for his health about a week ago. So he was in decline. But there were concerns for his health, and people were concerned that he was not being taken to the hospital when he needed to be taken to the hospital, and that his caregivers weren't doing that. I'm being really careful when I say this, because this is a small channel right now, but I do have a bit of a platform. I don't want to start rumors that could cause problems, and I don't want to implicate anybody in something that's not true. But I will not be surprised if some lawsuits start flying around in the next year or so. We'll see. But it's a loss. It's definitely a loss. And I don't know how long he might have been in decline, how much he might have been suffering and all that. But the world lost a true great yesterday, and He will be missed. He had a wicked sense of humor too. That's my favorite part about anybody, obviously. So anyway, I got a lot of comments asking me to do a video on Stephen Hawking on the main channel. I'm kind of booked up right now, so I don't know that I'm going to be able to pull that off. But I definitely wanted to just talk about it here, if nothing else, and reference the fact that it was on my birthday, which is just so bizarre. But no, I'll leave it with that. R.I.P. Stephen Hawking. We will miss you. I'll sign off now. Thanks you guys for watching. Take care.